Sned, it's really funny that you made that video off course because I was thinking about this quite recently, actually. Not specifically the examples that you brought up as far as like the Green Initiative, but just kind of like the broader topic of unforeseen consequences, good intentions, and stuff like that. I mean, every single movement that has ever been in the world, even the Nazis, you could argue that from their perspective, they had good intentions. What were their intentions? We need to rid the world of non-white people because non-white people are bad for the world. We need to rid the world of, Jews because Jews are ruining the world. We need to, have this master race because they thought that was a good idea. They thought that it would make the world a better place. And so they had good, in their opinion, good intentions, right? Good intentions don't do anything. Like, everybody can talk themselves into thinking that they have good intentions. Everybody can. Every single person justifies their actions by saying, well, my intentions were good. Now, every once in a while, people do have straight up bad intentions. They do. I would liken this to like a grid, on an axis, if you will. And if you can picture this, and I probably should have done a visual aid, but I'm not going to do it. Like picture four boxes, kind of all connected, like a big box, but it's separated into four boxes. In the upper left-hand corner, you have good intentions with wisdom. In the lower left corner, you have good intentions with foolishness, And then on the right-hand side, right upper, you have bad intentions with wisdom. And then lower right, you have bad intentions with foolishness. All of those things lead to different conclusions. Obviously, everybody wants the good intentions with wisdom. So good intentions with it, like ideally zero unforeseen consequences, right? Good intentions with a policy that's implemented in a way that works. It gets done what you want to get done. It incentivizes the right thing and it de-incentivizes the wrong thing. And it's period. It doesn't end up making people still do the same thing, but it costs them more money. Blah, blah, blah. Like it actually gets people to do the right thing. Now, is that possible, really? That's the question. We can sit there and we can point out the flaws and say, well, the intentions were good, but the method was foolish, therefore it didn't achieve what it wanted to achieve. Well, the real question is, can you really coerce people into doing the right thing? Can you coerce people into doing the moral thing that is good for the environment? Or is it just the nature of the world and the nature of human beings that the way that we communicate and the way that we make our laws is that there's always going to be a loophole no matter what? There's always going to be a loophole that somebody can find to exploit. Always. Or, just like you said, they're not going to find a loophole per se. They're just going to do that thing and they're going to pay the fine. They're going to continue to pollute the environment and they're going to pay the fine. And what they're eventually going to do is probably they're going to go to their supervisor and say, hey, I need a raise. I need to make more money. And the companies are actually going to end up paying for the fines. So what does that end up doing? It just funnels money into the government's pocket. So the government kind of has this attitude of one of two things will happen, or a combination of both of these things will happen. We will either get people to comply and make the world a better place, or we'll get more money. So we like both of those situations, right? We like that we're making a change and we like that we're making more money. And actually, what probably is going to happen is a combination of the two. They're going to grow in power because they get more money, and they're going to make some people change. The people who can't afford to pay the fines, they're going to have to change their behavior, period, right? So for the government, it's a win-win. even though it was a policy that had good intentions, but was applied with no wisdom or very little wisdom. It ended up being a good policy for the government. So, we used to talk about, when I was in management at a bank, we used to talk about that there's two types of decisions that you can make at a bank: decisions that are good for the bank and decisions that are good for the people who work at the bank. And very rarely is there overlap. You're either making a decision that's good for the bottom line of the bank and it's bad for the people, or you're making a decision that's good for the people but bad for the bottom line of the bank. So, in other words, whatever, like building a cafeteria or building um, building a weightlifting facility, that's good for the people, right? It's not necessarily, it costs the bank money. But, the overlap is like, well, people want to work here. Like we'll get higher quality people that want to work here if we have an exercise facility. So we'll draw in better people. The bank will end up benefiting, but it's good for both parties, blah, blah. But, situations where you give everybody a raise, that's just a cost center. You give people more vacation. That's probably the worst thing for the bank. You give somebody more vacation, you're actually paying them to stop working. So it's less production for the bank. And you can make the argument that they'll come back more refreshed and they'll be better employees when they're there. You can always make an argument for that. But anyway, unfortunately, it kind of works the same in the world, right? Where there's policies that are either good for the government or they're good for the people. Very rarely is it like both, and if the government's making the policies, what do you think they're going to do? Are they going to make policies that's good for them? Yeah. Are they going to sell it as if it's good for the people? Yeah. That's what they're going to do. They're just going to spin it to where it sounds like it's good for the people, but it's really good for them. And that's just what happens when imperfect human beings are in power. And we're all imperfect, and that's why things continue to get worse in the world, because we're foolish, we're corrupt, we're selfish, and the most powerful people among us, it's not like they're not foolish and corrupt and power hungry. Of course they are. They're actually more, in many cases, they're more power hungry, they're more corrupt, they're more foolish, but they're just really good salespeople. They're good looking, they know how to dress, they know how to manipulate people. And that's why the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And you can't legislate morality. You cannot coerce somebody to do the right thing. You can't. You can't make somebody do something that they need a good heart in order to actually do, right? You can de-incentivize people. You can put up a speed limit sign and say, if you exceed 65 miles an hour, you will pay this fine. And a lot of people are kind of scared into obeying that. But there's plenty of people who, they're like, screw it, man, I'm late for work. I'm going to go 90 in a 65. And lots of times they don't get caught. They just do it and they get away with it. And so it proves to be, and unfortunately, every once in a while, the people who do it often and don't get caught, they get in an accident because they're selfish. They're late for work, and it doesn't matter. They're willing to risk life and limb so they're not late for work, and they end up killing themselves, killing somebody, killing a child, whatever, just because they were late for work, for crying out loud. You can't make people think about those types of things. You can't get people to stop being selfish. You can only de-incentivize them to do one thing, incentivize to do them another thing through some type of coercion. And that's the problem we face. That's the problem that we face. It's got to be coercion, usually. Remember, they used to have PSAs all the time. They used to have these public service announcements about how bad drugs were and about how bad child abuse was. It's like, I don't even really see those anymore. Those were like an appeal to your morality. Like, please don't beat your child. Your child is going to end up, being damaged for the rest of his life if you beat him. Like, please don't do drugs, because if you do, you're going to ruin your life and blah, 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 blah. Like, we used to have commercials on TV that just said that, you know? This is drugs, this is your brain on drugs, and they crack an egg and put it in a frying pan and, just to scare you or whatever. And it's like, the government used to do that kind of stuff to kind of appeal to our sense of morality and our sense of right and wrong. But they seem to have given up on that. They don't, now anymore, it's just like, well, if you do drugs, or, if you're caught with a crack rock, you're going to spend this amount of time in jail. Unless you're Hunter Biden, then you'll get off free and clear. Or if you do go to jail, you go to a white collar prison where you get blowjobs on the daily from your hooker girlfriend. Nowadays it's just threats of violence, threats of fines, threats of jail time. It's no longer please stop doing this or please start doing this. It's like, if you don't stop doing this, this is going to happen to you. If you don't start doing this, this is going to happen to you. I don't know. It's interesting. The whole thing is interesting. But as a race, we're doomed, because we got the blind leading the blind, as far as I'm concerned. We continue to vote in people who are just good-looking, smooth talkers, who are complete and utter grandiose narcissists. That's what we just continue to do. It's not just America, it's Europe, it's Asia, I'm sure. It's human nature for us to want to be led by people who are going to lead us right down the path of destruction. But yeah, good intentions don't mean squat. Good intentions has to be coupled with wisdom. Has to be. And that's just the policy end of it. When you're talking about the constituents and the public, we need a sense of morality. I think Benjamin Franklin even said, when they formed the United States, he said, these laws, this Constitution that we put together, these rules are for a moral society. These rules are for people who already have ingrained morals in their brain, and we're basically reiterating what they already know deep down in their souls, that this is the wrong thing and this is the right thing. We will reward the right thing, and we will punish the wrong thing. But if you have immoral people come in and try to obey a constitution, a set of laws, whatever, they're going to come in, they're going to change it, they're going to find loopholes, and they're going to exploit those loopholes, and the country's going to go to shit. And, a document isn't going to change the country for good or bad. A document provides guidance, but as the moral compass of a whole people shift in one direction, it doesn't matter what the documents say. The trend is the trend, and people are going to follow the trend right into a ditch, basically. So, sorry for such a long video. I know I'm verbose. Have a good day, everyone.